Hello, everyone. Welcome to another good word from God's Word. Today, we are starting with the book of Ruth. And so, if you've been reading with us through the Bible, chapter by chapter, every single day, we have made it to the book of Ruth. So, I actually this week we made a playlist in on our Facebook page, and so you can actually go and look at every single one of these videos that we have done. It's not quite complete, especially when you get to the beginning of the year, but we're still working on it, and it will be getting there. But so what we've done now is that we have gone through all of the historical book. We've gone through the books of the law. The Pentateuch was Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and now we were in Joshua, Judges, Ruth, which is really like the beginning. These are the beginnings of the historical books, and Ruth is the third of this set of that Joshua, Judges, Ruth. So what most people believe is that Ruth happens right between the happenings of Judges and First Samuel. So right where we left off in Judges was it was a pretty dark time for the Benjamites, and they're trying to like regrow their clan after starting a giant civil war, and everyone is still just doing what's right in their own eyes. And so we've been looking at this like big picture view of how everything works, and now we're going to dive deep into one particular person, and this person is Ruth. Now, who is Ruth? They kind of set the stage for us in chapter 1. Ruth is actually not a Jew by birth. She is actually a Moabite woman, a woman named Naomi and her husband Elimelech. They moved to Moab for probably for money or to find better farmland, or for whatever reason. They moved there with their two sons. After a few years, Elimelech dies, and then the two sons get married, and one of the wives of her sons is Ruth. And then both the sons die. Now, this presents a problem because in that culture, in that time, right or wrong, it just is what it is. In that time, the only what Naomi's responsibilities are, that's Ruth's mother-in-law. Naomi's responsibilities at the time is to provide another son, because she is Ruth and her sister-in-law Orpah are no longer part of this family. They're no longer part of. I'm sorry, they're no longer part of the families that they left. They don't really go back. They're not really supposed to go back there. They are now part of Naomi's family, and it's Naomi's job to. What's supposed to happen is Ruth and Orpah are both supposed to marry for sons of Naomi, but they can't do that because Naomi's too old, and like, are you gonna wait for these sons to grow up? And then it's like this really old woman marrying these young men. It's just this whole thing. And so Naomi's like, okay, I'm gonna go back home, and I'm going to go be with my family. Y'all just go on back to your families, and we'll just kind of figure it out, because like we're going to die here. We can't stay here because things are just going to be bad for us. And so they start heading back, and Naomi's like, okay, look, girls, you can't come with me, and you have to go home. Orpah ultimately decides to leave. Ruth decides to stay, and she says, I will make your God my God, which is an important thing, because what's happening here is Ruth is saying, I will become a Jew. I will follow God's teachings. I will become an Israelite. So this is like an immigration process as we're coming on. And so I won't. And so this is who Ruth is. Ruth is this person that's in a foreign land, in a foreign place, part of a part of this family that has been with all of this tragedy, going back to an important town, Bethlehem. Now, the rest of the story goes on and talks about a whole bunch of great stuff that I don't want to steal the thunder and the other people who are telling the rest of her story. But the great thing about Ruth is that Ruth shows that God can use anyone, because here's a woman, a Moabite woman, and according to the law, and according to what happened in Joshua, is that no one was supposed to have no Jew, no Israelite was supposed to marry anyone, any Moabite, for 10 generations. This is within that time span. But it doesn't matter. But they went ahead and did it. They went ahead and married that woman. And for whatever reason, we're not going to get into the theology or the legalistic. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. They get in there. And then at the end of the story, we find out that Ruth's husband, or Ruth, becomes the great grandmother of King David. And King David becomes it sets up the line that ultimately leads us to Jesus. So that's why as Christians we like this story, because it brings us It leads us directly to Jesus. It leads us to that line through King David. It shows us the redemption of a woman. It shows us resourcefulness. It shows us working hard. It shows us an immigration policy that comes in and how people are taken care of and brought in. And so Ruth is an incredible book that kind of brings us in and that helps us get just a parable of how life was back then and how God continued to work through them through everything. So there's not a lot to go in here except to know, in this particular chapter, except to know that God can use you no matter where you are or where you're from, no matter where you were born, what family you're from, or what you've done. God can absolutely use you in some way. And sometimes when he uses you, you don't even realize how he's using you. You're just living your life. And then sometime in eternity, we'll find out just how the choices that we made today will affect tomorrow and the next day, 10, 100, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, from Naomi. So that's today's good word from God's word. I hope you have an awesome week. Tomorrow is going to be interesting, and not interesting, and excited. I'm pretty excited for it. Pastors Holly and Tommy, they are married. They are bringing the word to finish up a road trip series tomorrow. It's going to be really, really good. I hope you're doing awesome, and we will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.